Good morning. Yesterday we were discussing about the classical discrete circuit bias, also known as the voltage divider bias. We call this as the classical discrete circuit bias arrangement or voltage divider bias, universal bias, could also be called as the other name for this is, say, self bias. So all these names imply the same circuit and the best biasing arrangement for a transistor amplifier is this. Okay. So please remember this is the best biasing arrangement possible for a transistor amplifier. Now we discussed all this and we discussed this circuit is more stable when compared to the fixed bias arrangement because we could show that this resistor in the emitter junction would act like a feedback resistor. It would give negative feedback into the input part of the circuit. A portion of the output would be negatively added to the input or subtracted from the input so that it will tend to reduce the incoming base current or incoming base emitter voltage. Hence, any increase in collector current which happened because of temperature or beta values would be brought back down to normal because of this emitter resistance Re. That's why this is known as the self-bias arrangement. And we also did the design analysis. We said there can be two conditions. One is the based on the emitter current equation. We wrote the equation for emitter current by using the KVL of the input loop. We considered KVL equation of this input loop, and there we said there can be two conditions for design. Whenever we have to design, we should try to make this chosen current, emitter current, independent of changes in the base emitter voltage, which will make it automatically independent of base current IB and hence collector current also. If IB doesn't vary, IC will also not vary, as simple as that. And if IB shouldn't vary, the base emitter voltage should remain fixed. So we'll try, if we have to make this emitter current independent of VBE, looking at this equation which is written equation A, we said we have to choose this constant voltage V Thevenin to be much larger than this base emitter voltage. If we could do that, we'll be making this current almost independent of changes in VBE, right? And if I make this independent of VBE, it will almost be independent of IB as well as IC also. Now, this condition, if I have to choose, there is some problem. If I have to make this voltage, the Thevenin's equivalent voltage, to be much greater, it will reduce the voltage drop across this collector resistance RC. If VRC reduces, the output voltage reduces and hence the gain of the circuit will reduce. We told we'll be using this biasing arrangement most commonly in amplifiers. So naturally, we don't prefer to reduce the gain of the amplifier. Yes or no? So we don't prefer to increase V Thevenin to be a much large value. So what we'll do an optimal design by using the thumb rule, which states that the Thevenin's equivalent voltage, you can write either of them, the voltage between base to ground or Thevenin's equivalent voltage should be approximately equal to voltage drop across the resistor RC. It should be equivalent to voltage drop between the collector base junction. I showed you here this voltage, and this voltage. All three voltages should be almost equal and it should be 1/3 of the supply voltage VCC. That we called as the thumb rule. That is the first rule when we design the amplifier. Whenever we design a voltage divider bias circuit, we'll use this rule commonly. And the second condition is again looking into this expression for emitter current. In the denominator, we saw there is a factor beta, which is temperature dependent and which is dependent on the transistor used. It varies from transistor to transistor, right? So if I have to make this emitter current independent of beta, the possibility here is to make this resistance Re much greater than the resistance RTH by 1 plus beta. That's the second condition which we have considered here for design. But if we try to increase Re to a very large value, as you can see, this voltage drop increases means again voltage drop across RC decreases. So there will be whatever drop across Re is there, it will act like negative feedback. So there will be negative feedback in the circuit. The larger this emitter resistance you're going to increase. So don't make this emitter resistance too large, because if I increase this, sum of this plus this collector emitter voltage here plus this drop across will be a constant value. If you increase this, the amount of feedback going to the input part of the circuit increases, which will decrease the input current, input voltage, and also output voltage. So we don't prefer to increase Re to a large value, one thing. So the other option is I should try to decrease RTH. If I can't increase Re, we will try to decrease RTH here to ensure this condition is satisfied. But when I try to decrease RTH, that can be done by decreasing either R1 or R2. You see here, RTH is R1 in parallel with R2. So if you decrease either R1 or R2, this RTH value will be decreased, as you can see here. But what happens when I do that? The input resistance of the amplifier is going to reduce. And this input resistance indicates the total resistance seen between the input junctions of the BJT. And what happens if that input resistance decreases? I told you there will be loading effect. So whenever we cascade two stages of amplifiers, we want the input impedance of the second amplifier to be very higher when compared to output impedance of the first one. If that is not so, then the output voltage which was higher will get reduced by a large value. If the input resistance of the cascaded stage is not high, then the loading effect happens and the voltage will get reduced. You were supposed to get output of 10 volts, but that will become 1 volt or 5 volt depending on the value of resistance. So that is one problem. I can't decrease this RTH by a large value. So here also actually we will use a condition. You can, I forgot to write here. I told it yesterday. So we can consider optimally. This is a design condition. We can consider optimally current through the R1, R2 network, current through the voltage divider network. This current, I'll consider the same current flows here. This current IB, I'm considering to be negligibly small, almost equal to 0. Remember, IB is very small when compared to this current I. We'll make this current I to be much, or let's say much greater than IB. So IB is negligible. And as a rule, choose I R1, R2 to range between 0.1 to 1 times the emitter current or the collector current. See, in this also we'll normally consider IC and IE as almost the same. Yes or no? We'll consider IC, IE as almost the same because IB is negligibly small. So if we should ensure that RE should not be made too large, R1, R2 should not be made too small, then, but still we should get efficient biasing so that IE becomes independent of beta. So for condition 2, IE should become independent. It should not depend on beta. And for condition 1, we want the emitter current to be independent of VBE and IB. Generally, VBE mainly. Okay, from this equation, we are considering both the condition. So if we want to do that, in the second condition, we'll use as a rule, we'll choose the current in this voltage divider I to be much greater than the current through the base IB, and we will normally choose that current to be 0.1 to 1 times the emitter current IE. Okay, so please remember these two rules of design. The thumb rule states voltage across RC equal to Thevenin's voltage equal to voltage across collector base junction, which is 1/3 VCC. And the second rule tells the current in this voltage divider network is much greater than the base current, and it is normally chosen in the range 0.1 to 1 times IE. Okay. So if you remember these two conditions, now we can we were solving one problem, I think, yesterday. That problem stated, consider the circuit voltage divider bias circuit as shown. Given VCC is 12 volts, beta is 100, IE 1 milliampere, designed for all the resistors in the circuit. So first what we did, we tried to design for this emitter resistance. We'll find the emitter resistance first, then the collector resistance, and then we can find R1, R2. So what did we do? We used the thumb rule and we stated that the voltage between base to ground, almost equivalent as the Thevenin's voltage, should be equal to VCB. It should be equal to VRC, which should be 1/3 of VCC, which is 12/3, 4 volts. Then what we did, we applied KVL to the input circuit here. So this is the voltage. This is the KVL voltage here. We considered we considered this, and when we wrote the KVL equation for this input loop, this voltage we had considered as 4 volts, which is VCC by 3. What did we get? We got minus VBG plus VBE plus IERE. This current is IE, so plus IERE is 0. And from this we tried to find the value of RE. IERE would become this voltage drop minus VBE, 4 minus 0.7, 3.3 volts. Okay. And hence, what is the value of RE? It will be IERE divided by the current IE, which would result in the value 3.3 kilo ohms. Okay. So any doubts so far? This we did. Next, again using the same thumb rule, we know VRC, the drop across this collector resistance RC, should also be VCC by 3. So we took the same condition, VRC should be 12/3, 4 volts, and RC will be VRC divided by IC. I told you we can consider IC as approximately equal to IE here because IB is very small. So if I use this condition, we are doing an approximate design here. And most of the times this will hold good perfectly. We won't have any problem with this design. So you'll get approximately 4 kilo ohms for the collector resistance RC. Okay. So till here, I hope it is clear. Now consider design of R1 and R2. Let's say design 1. In the first method, using the rule, the current through R1, R2, the current in the voltage divider, let me consider it as around 0.1 times the emitter current. We said it can range anywhere between 0.1 to 1 times, right? It can be approximately equal to IE or 0.1 times IE. Usually, we'll consider this 0.1 times emitter current. Here in this case, how much was the emitter current? It was 1 milliampere. So 0.1 into 1 milli, this will be 0.1 milliampere. So this is the current in the voltage divider. We have the voltage divider like this. Okay, R1, R2. And the current in this voltage divider is 0.1 milliampere. The voltage connected here is what? VCC. We have connected the voltage across this divider is nothing but VCC. Later on we simplified this, and this part goes to the base of the circuit. Ideally speaking, a very small base current will branch out here. So if I have 0.1 here, here I should have 0.1 minus IB. But since IB is in what? 1 by 1000th of this current. If this current is 0.1, this current will be approximately 0.0001 or something like that. So we don't measure up to that accuracy. Yes or no? So we don't go to an accuracy as high as this. That's why we'll say IB can be negligibly small. I can assume this to be almost zero when compared to this current. That means this part of the connection I can assume is not there. So what happens? I can easily say R1 plus R2 will be what? VCC by the current IR1R2. How much is that? VCC was given as 12 volts and this current is assumed as 0.1 milliamps. Right? So this turns out to be, is it 120K? 12 by 0.1 is 120. 1 by milli. Yes or no? So this turns out to be 120K kilo ohm. Now I have to find R1 and R2. So to find R1 and R2, we know one more relation. What is the drop across VR2? This one. Total voltage into R2 by R1 plus R2. We know this voltage divider rule where the total voltage VCC will be split between R1 and R2 like this. So I'll try to use this. So why I'm using this equation? Because this is nothing but the voltage between base and ground, also known as the Thevenin's voltage, which we know is 4 volts. We have already stated that this voltage between base and ground is nothing but VCC by 3, which is 4 volts. Yes or no? So that is the voltage drop across the resistor R2, and it can also be written as VCC into R2 by R1 plus R2. So when I do this, when you substitute for VCC, can you get a relationship between R1 and R2? Do it. VCC is 12 volts. 4R1 plus 4R2 or if I bring R2 to the left hand side, 8R2 is equal to 4R1, or in other words, R1 is twice R2. Correct? Please verify. When I'm doing it here, there may be small mistakes. Just verify once. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now, since again there are two unknowns, there are two options. You know one more relation for R1, R2. What is that? R Thevenin we know, but we don't know what is the value of the Thevenin's resistance. So what I'll do here, the only option here is choose one resistance, choose, let me say, R2 to be some value, approximately 40 kilo ohms. Then R1 will be twice of 40, that is 80 kilo ohms. Therefore, you can see R1 plus R2 will be 120K as obtained, right? So this is one option. Choose R2 as 40K and R1 will then turn out to be 80K. Now we have done the complete design. The complete circuit is designed. Therefore, as per this design, what did we get? We got RE as 3.3K, RC 4K, R1 80K, R2 40K. So the complete circuit has been designed. But one more thing what we can do is we can verify whether we are getting the required emitter current after designing for all the resistors. Verify if required IE is obtained. How would I do that? What is the equation for IE? We know that the equation for IE, we wrote it here when we did the design. What was the equation for IE? V Thevenin minus VBE divided by RE plus R Thevenin by 1 plus beta. In this circuit, how did we get this equation? By writing the input loop equation. See, we had written the input loop equation. You will get this expression for emitter current. Or you could do one more thing. You wrote the expression for base current. You multiply both sides of this equation with 1 plus beta, because we know emitter current is 1 plus beta times the base current. Okay. So you can do in any method, either write KVL directly and isolate the emitter current. All currents you should write in terms of emitter current. Here I have one base current. IB should be written as IE by 1 plus beta. The other current is IE itself. And if you do the KVL of this input loop, you'll still get the same equation. So here we'll write this equation directly. IE is what? V Thevenin minus VBE divided by RB by 1 plus beta plus RE. Substitute all the values and can you tell me how much will you get IE as? This is 4 volts. VBE is 0.7 volts for any silicon transistor. RB is nothing but R Thevenin here. R Thevenin would be 80K in parallel with 40K. R1 parallel R2 is this Thevenin's voltage divided by 1 plus beta. I think beta was given as 100, right? Yeah, beta is 100. So you substitute this as 101 and RE we got it as 3.3K. Can you check out how much this is?
925.
Yeah, I'm getting 0.925. Approximately 0.93 milliampere is what I got just now when I calculated. Please check. Is this right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but this current is what? Considerably less than the given design value. What was the given IE value? IE was supposed to be 1 milliamp, but we got a lesser current after our design. So what are the ways in which I can increase this emitter current to make it almost 1 milliamps? Therefore, look at the equation and tell me. One simple way to increase this emitter current is, see, in the denominator, I have two terms, RE, which is 3.3K, and I think this we are getting it as how much? 264, 264, 265, something I'm getting ohms, correct? This first part. So we see when we add this R Thevenin by 1 plus beta to RE, naturally this addition is creating a decrease in the emitter current. Otherwise, this we got it as 3.3 volts. And if I simply had 3.3K here, if this became almost zero, then I would get a exact current value of 1 milliampere. That means we have to try to make this very small. So one simple way to increase IE is to make RE much larger than RTH by 1 plus beta, or just consider, you say just consider RE as 3.3K minus of this RTH by 1 plus beta. If you do this, what will happen? This will be 3.3K, 3300 minus around 265 ohms, which will turn out to be, I think, 3035 ohms, correct? I'm just checking on an average how I can increase this. The one way of doing it is to make this very small, and with that, what will happen to the value of IE? You will get it as 3.3 volts divided by 3035. Is that correct? How much would this be then? Will I get 1.01 or something?
087.
08?
Yes, 087 milliampere.
Okay, 1.087 milliampere, which is a little more than the estimate. Almost closer, but a little more than that. But there is an alternate way of increasing IE, and this turns out to be better if input impedance of amplifier can be small. If I can have input impedance of amplifier to be small, or if R1 and R2 can be small. If you can make R1 and R2 smaller, then automatically this RTH could be reduced. And in order to do that, in order to reduce R1 and R2, what can we do? We can consider larger current. We can consider current through R1, R2 to be 1 times emitter current. I told you it can actually range between 0.1 to 1 times IE. Yes or no? We had taken 0.1 times IE in the previous design, and when we took 0.1 times IE, we got large resistances. So the input impedance of the circuit will be high, R1 parallel R2. I think you'll get around 26 K or something nearly. But now if I choose a larger current here, instead of 0.1 IE, I'm going to take 1 IE. If I take the current through the potential divider to be 1 IE, what happens now? Again, you have this potential divider R1, R2. The current through this is equal to IE, 1 times IE. And as usual, you try to find what? The sum of these two resistors. Therefore, what is R1 plus R2? 12 volts divided by 1 milliampere. How much will it be? 12 kilo ohms, correct? Now, we already found a relation between R1 and R2 when we did in the first design. We showed the same equation you'll use because VThevenin remains 4 volts. If I use the same equation here, I'll get R1 will be twice R2. Correct. Now, using VCC R2 by R1 plus R2 as 4 volts, and hence we get, I'll not repeat the same we had done. We get R1 will become twice R2. Therefore, here what we'll do, we can assume smaller values. We can, the total itself is small, 12K. So we can assume R2 to be 4K and R1 will be twice of 4K, 8 kilo ohms. So what are we doing here? We are trying to reduce the values of R1 and R2 by making a larger current flow through this potential divider network. Okay. So when we make the larger current to flow, the total value of R1 plus R2 reduces. The relationship between R1 and R2 remains the same. Using this equation, we had found the relationship. After substituting VCC as 12 volts, we said R1 should be approximately twice R2. Now you can assume one resistor R2 as 4K, the other would become 8K. Now for this design, I want you to check IE again. Check value of IE for the new design. Please do it. The expression for IE remains the same. VTH minus VBE divided by RTH by 1 plus beta plus RE. This was the equation. 4 minus 0.7. As usual, this is 3.3. RTH in this case is 8K in parallel with 4K. 1 plus beta as usual is 101. RE remains 3.3K. So in effect, what is happening? This second term, RTH by 1 plus beta, has been reduced now. Then we had 80K in parallel with 40K, which would give a larger value. Now we are reducing this value because of choosing a larger current. Or effectively, this IE becomes more independent of beta. Can you tell me what you will get now? .3 volts. Maybe this will be around 2.6K by 101 plus 3.3K. 2.64 or 2.65. So 3.3 divided by how much?
992.
Yeah, I think you should get something like this, 0.99 or something, which is much closer to 1. Please check out. See, this is, you can see here itself directly, this term has reduced. This 8K in parallel to 4K will be approximately 2.65K or something. 2.65K divided by 100 will be around 0.0265K. So when I add 3.3K to 0.0265K, I'm going to get what? 3.3026 or something like that. So it's almost 3.3 divided by 3.3. You will get something nearing 1. You should be getting something around 0.99, which is fine. Yes or no? Please check out.
Yes, ma'am.
Here only I'm able to verify you're getting something around 0.99. You say, therefore,
0.9920.
if we can tolerate a lower input impedance and reduce R1 and R2, we get a closer approximation to the given value. Okay, so we'll get a closer approximation to the given value of IE, but depending on the application, you have to choose either design 1 or design 2. It's not wrong if you choose design 1. You are getting a little farther away the current, but still this design 1 is suitable if we want a larger input impedance. If R1 and R2 values have to be larger, then design 1 is more suitable in such a circuit. Loading effect will be avoided. Whereas if I can tolerate a lower input impedance, I can use a larger current in this voltage divider network, which will result in. Okay, let's continue with the next bias, which is collector to base feedback bias. So what we have done now is the best biasing arrangement used with amplifiers, and we have also seen what are the design considerations. Actually speaking, this is one way of designing. There is another alternate way of designing the biasing circuit in an amplifier, which you will be seeing in the lab. Have you done that in the first lab when you did oscillators? Did Praveen sir explain about the biasing design? So anyway, when we do it in the lab, we'll be using a slightly different version of designing this voltage divider bias circuit. So there is another way of doing it by choosing the Q point to be center of the load line and do it. But even that design is commonly used. In your textbook, since he has mentioned this particular design, you are supposed to write this type of design in your theory in the exam and all that. But in the lab, we'll follow a slightly different design. Whenever I have time, I'll explain to you that design also. If sir explains about that design in today's class, it's fine. If not, I will surely explain it here. That is also another efficient way of designing the voltage divider bias. But unfortunately, the same thing is not followed in your theory, in your textbook. This is another method of design. I'm not telling this is not efficient. Even this is good enough. Okay. So for your theory, you remember this method. And let's move on to the next biasing arrangement, which is also known as collector to base feedback bias. So let me draw the circuit of this bias. as the name indicates, you expect a connection between the collector terminal and the base terminal of the transistor. There is a connection here and the base current flows through this. As usual, you should have the load resistance RC, and this is connected to the voltage source VCC. This is the circuit of collector to base feedback bias. As usual, the emitter current flows out. So the collector current and base current should be flowing into the transistor. Can you tell me what will be the value of current through this resistor RC now? Looking at this circuit, IC is the current entering the collector of the transistor, and IB is the current flowing through this feedback resistor RB to the base region. So what should be the total current in this RC? The current through
IB
this
plus
RC,
IC.
yes, this should be IB plus IC, which in other words is nothing but your emitter current IE. Yes or no? And as usual, we should have this base emitter junction forward biased. So I should have a voltage VBE across this in this direction. Please see, we are talking about NPN transistors only more commonly. Whenever the arrow is pointing outwards, it's an NPN transistor. And I have this collector emitter voltage drop VCE with the positive at the collector and negative at the emitter. So this is the circuit of collector to base feedback bias. Okay. Since there is a resistor RB connected from collector to base and the output current, part of which flows as the base current or the feedback current, this is called feedback bias. So part of the output current is splitting up to come back to the input side. Whenever you bring a portion of the output back to the input, it is called feedback. Okay, that's why this also gets the name feedback bias circuit. And since that feedback resistor is connected from collector to base, it's called collector to base feedback bias. Okay, and now let's try to do the analysis. As usual, you should write the expression for IB and IE. We'll consider IE also because that is used in design, and then IC and VCE. So first step involves writing KVL to the input loop. Can you tell me which would be the input loop in this case? Which would be the input loop? I always have to start from the power supply. So starting with VCC, I should move on to the direction where the base current IB flows and the base emitter voltage is there. This would be the input loop in this circuit. So remember, this VCC means there is a voltage source like this. This is VCC. So starting with this, can you tell me the KVL equation? Let's move in this direction. Minus VCC, here negative to positive. IE here, IB plus IC through RC is flowing downwards. So the upper end is positive. So I'm going from positive to negative. I'll write it as IERC. The voltage drop across this resistor, IERC. Now I should move on to the input side. Again, IB flows from right to left, which means the right side is at a higher potential than the left side, positive, negative, and we are moving in the same direction. So plus IB RB, okay. And finally, the base emitter junction voltage drop. Again, we are going from positive side to negative. So plus VBE is equal to 0. Is that okay? Yes or no? Now
Ma'am.
there are two options. Either we can write the base current value as we do normally and then write IE, or we can directly write for IE itself. Let's do that. In this case, I'll convert IB to IE. What is IB in terms of IE? IE by 1 plus beta. Yes or no? We know IE is IB plus IC, which is IB plus IC is beta IB, which is nothing but IB into 1 plus beta. Therefore, if IE is IB into 1 plus beta, IB will be emitter current by 1 plus beta. We'll substitute this in this equation and see what we'll get. Do it. Minus VCC. I'm retaining IE because I'll directly write the expression for current IE, plus IE by 1 plus beta times RB plus VBE is equal to 0. I am interested in finding IE. So IE into RC plus RB by 1 plus beta. There are two terms with IE, this and this. And when I shift these voltages on the right hand side, I'll get plus VCC minus VBE, or IE is equal to VCC minus VBE divided by RC plus RB by 1 plus beta. Look at this equation. Isn't it almost similar to the equation which we got with the voltage divider bias? What is the change you are having between that equation?
Instead of RE, we are having RC.
That's all. There we had RE, here we are having RC, one thing. Instead of this RB, we had R Thevenin, the Thevenin's equivalent of R1 and R2. And instead of VCC, we would have V Thevenin, which is VCC R2 by R1 plus R2. So some small changes, but still all these are, this is a constant voltage still, larger voltage VCC. There we had only a portion of VCC and this resistance. So this is very similar, let's say very similar to, call this equation 1, to the voltage divider bias. Now, if I want to find IB, how would I find IB? It is IE by 1 plus beta. You have to divide the right hand side also with 1 plus beta. So VCC minus VBE by 1 plus beta times RC plus RB by 1 plus beta. What will this be? VCC minus VBE by RC into 1 plus beta. I am taking this inside, plus RB. This will give you the expression for base current IB. So I told you, you could have directly written IB first and then got IE, or you can write IE first and get IB from this. We have done it both ways, so you'll know either way how to do it. Once you have IB, IC, step 2 in our analysis was finding IC from IB, which is beta times IB. And step 3 is to apply KVL to the output loop so that you will be able to find the collector emitter voltage. Can you do that in this circuit? Which will be the output loop? Can you tell me which will be the output loop? Starting from this supply, coming through this resistor RC and coming in the output side of the circuit. This is your output loop. Yes or no? Can you write this KVL equation of the output loop? minus VCC plus IERC plus VCE will be 0. Is that right? Minus VCC plus IERC plus VCE will be 0. This is the output side. I am interested in this voltage VCE, which will be VCC minus IERC. Done. The major part of the analysis is done. Please see here, minus VCC plus IERC plus VCE. Okay. So we have done this analysis. Now let's do the stability analysis. Just like how we did in the previous circuit, let us analyze how stable the operating point will be in this circuit. So how do we do that? If temperature increases or beta increases, this would cause the collector current and hence emitter current to increase. We'll start off with this assumption and we'll see what will happen in the circuit, how this circuit behaves. So if IC or IE increases, what happens to this drop across the resistor RC? It is IE into RC, it will surely increase. Yes or no? If IE increases, IE into RC, the drop across RC will increase. IE RC, which is drop across RC, that will increase. And if drop across RC increases, you look at this equation. From the input loop equation, what will happen? This drop is increasing. If this drop increases, this is a constant which can't change. So what should happen? If I should have this constant to be maintained and one value has increased, naturally the other two VBE and IBRB should decrease. We know VBE and IB are interlinked. If VBE decreases, IB decreases. So naturally you can say from this equation, these values will have to decrease if this increases in order to maintain the sum of these two constant. You see, IERC plus IBRB plus VBE is equal to VCC if I take it to the other side. And since this VCC can't change, it is a constant. If IERC is increasing because of temperature or so, the circuit behaves in such a way that VBE and hence IB should decrease. So if one drop increases, the others should decrease. You say to maintain constant VCC. The sum is equal to a constant. So what happens if IB decreases? If IB decreases, it automatically causes IC to decrease. So if at all IB decreases, it causes a decrease in IC. So IC, which started off to increase because of temperature or beta, is now brought back to its earlier value, or it is decreasing. Hence, again, this circuit will not go to thermal runaway and it will have a stable Q point. The Q point whose coordinates are VCE and IC will remain stable. Is that clear? And why it happens in this circuit? This is because of feedback resistor RB. In voltage divider bias, we got stability because of the emitter resistor. See, because of the resistor in this emitter region, we could get good stability in voltage divider. Here we don't have emitter resistor. This feedback resistor is adding stability to this operating point here. I hope this concept is clear. If you have any doubts, please ask. We'll do a problem in the next class. Go through this. In the meantime, I think there is some problem with the Google Classroom. That's why I'm not able to post the material and videos. I'll check out once more today, and if it is not possible, I'll create a new classroom. You please join into the new classroom. Okay. There is something I don't know why I'm not able to post anything there. There has been some problem there, some issue with the